Mike. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Jose?
I'm good. I'm good. Can you tell us about yourself a little bit? About yourself, your name, where you live, what's your profession, and what do you do here in Harvest Aviation, please?
Okay, my name is Mike Birch, and I'm a resident here in Hardee County. I live out in Fort Greene. I'm a pilot with Frontier Airlines, and spend a lot of time volunteering out here at Harvest Aviation here at the Wauchula Airport.
Have you been in 4-H in the past?
Yep, I grew up with 4-H. I grew up on a dairy farm in Ohio, so we took hogs to the fair all the time. So
Good. What about in Hardee County?
Hardee County, all my kids are involved with 4-H and have been since we moved here. So
And your wife is involved like a leader,
yes,
right?
she's a little involved too.
Okay, good. So, for how long have you been in a professional pilot with Frontier or other companies?
Well, I've only been with Frontier for a few years, but I did a lot of flying, would be charter flying in the small corporate jets for many years before that. I started flying, I took my first lesson in high school, just to see if it was something interesting that I wanted to do, and then I got hooked on it and said, yeah, this is something I definitely want to pursue. And
So high school.
So
Right.
yeah, I took my first lesson, just came out to a little airport like this in Coshocton, Ohio. A guy took me up on a flight, an introductory flight, and I loved it. So I took a few lessons. That was enough to get me hooked. And then I went to college, I have just an associate's degree. Excuse me. And I got most of my ratings in college, and then from there, went on to the first flying job. So.
Okay, for how many years have been a pilot?
I'm sorry, yeah. So going back, that was 1990. I think I got my license in 92. So I've been a pilot since.
So you have to get a license after you have your degree?
That's all part of it.
It's part of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't have to have a degree to be a pilot.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So, we didn't know that.
You start out with a private pilot license. So that would be like the airplane behind me, a small trainer. You go and it's usually about 55 to 65 flight hours, and just on average, but it depends on the individual and how often you fly and the circumstances.
Okay.
That gets you your private pilot license. And then from there, you have to go and get what's called an instrument rating, which allows you to fly solely by instruments. So you're in a cloud,
That's different, right?
Yeah, it's completely different. So
Okay.
you're visualizing all this in your mind. So that's totally different than looking out the window and seeing everything. So you really learn to rely on your instruments.
Okay.
So you navigate all that kind of stuff without being able to see out the window.
So do you
After
remember
the
how many? Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry, after the instrument rating, then you go on to get a commercial license. And that'll probably leave you with about maybe 225 hours or something like that, if you're just going along in progression. And a commercial license allows you to fly for hire. Now, still, you've only flown little airplanes. And so then it's all about building your hours. So to get your first job, maybe it's towing banners, the people you see towing banners around the big stadiums or along the beach, or maybe you're doing agricultural flying, which is what I did. And then you build your hours and you move up steadily in different airplanes, and then so it's a long progression. So.
Okay. How many pilots can an airplane have over the cockpit? How many? You have a pilot, co-pilot, or three?
Yeah, most airplanes nowadays just have two.
Two.
Back in the day, a lot of your big transport airplanes, 727s, that they had three. They had a flight engineer. That's not very common anymore. They've mostly condensed it to a two-pilot crew with the advancement of systems and all that kind of stuff.
So do you remember how many hours you have in the air right now? Do you remember how many?
I haven't totaled my logbook up, but I'd be somewhere
in between,
just shy of 11,000 hours, I think.
That's a lot.
I have a few.
Yeah, that's a lot. I have a question. If you have to go to a bathroom, who drives the plane? I know that you have a co-pilot, but
So if you're in a little airplane like this, and you got to go, and there's nowhere to go,
it's difficult.
You got two choices. You can land at an airport, go to a facility, or you can improvise,
or wait,
or be miserable and wait.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So we're going to talk about just a little bit about your equipment, but in this, in the airplane, you have different kind of like clocks and what do you call the wheel? Do you have a name for that?
It's called a yoke.
Okay, good. So in the commercial airplane, is the same or?
Some of them are different. Some of them have basically would be a joystick on them.
Joystick, really?
Yeah. So, and this, for instance, the plane I fly now is called an Airbus, the 320 and 321, and all it has is literally a joystick on the right side, and it's fly-by-wire, which means computers and electrical signals give all the inputs to the actuators to move the airplane, and so literally you just sit there and do this to fly it, and of course you have your throttles and stuff over
Okay.
here.
What about the brakes?
And the brakes are toe brakes. So you have, and we'll show you in an airplane in a minute,
Of course.
but you have rudder pedals, and at the top of the rudder pedals, if you push on those are your brakes. And most all airplanes are set up like that. Some of the really old airplanes had what they call heel brakes, little tail draggers. Those were kind of awkward to use because your foot obviously doesn't bend easily to be able to push the brakes. You had to
So it's hard.
So they developed early on. They developed toe brakes where you just pivot and on the tops of your rudder pedals, and that's where your brakes are.
Okay, good. So, can you tell about 4-Hers about your experience? That if they want to do, if they want to be a pilot, what they need to do.
Well, the first thing
And
you want to
it's-
do if you want to be a pilot, if it's even a thought that's crossing your mind, is go take an introductory flight. See if you like it. Because most people, once they've done that, they're either like, yeah, this is really cool, or no thanks. And even then, when I was in flight school getting my private license, I had a guy that thought he wanted to be a pilot, and he was an older gentleman, and he went up to the point of where we were practicing maneuvers, and one of the maneuvers is a stall. So a stall is not that the engine quits. A stall is when your airplane, your wings no longer produce lift, and then so you don't have enough power, and the airplane will just kind of drop. And if you're uncoordinated, or depending on the airplane, it might drop a wing, and it's kind of a weird feeling the first few times you do it, but that for him that was the deal, that he didn't want any more to do with it. So you might find out a little bit later, but it's pretty rare. Most people have no trouble with that kind of stuff at all. You kind of know if you've taken a few lessons, and then once you take your lessons and then you decide it's something you want to pursue, then there's just a plethora of options out there. You can go to your local airport, find a flight instructor.
Do we have one here in Harvest Aviation?
Yeah, we've got Eric, the director, is a flight instructor, as well as our Brian Smith is a flight instructor as well.
Okay.
And they teach both private and instrument.
Oh, wow,
So
that's nice. Can you give us the phone number for this site?
for Harvest,
Yes.
yeah, it's because I never
It's okay.
call it without just saying
Yeah,
Harvest.
you just push the button and that's it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Let's see. So Harvest is, should just holler in there and ask them. It's 773-3082.
Okay, wait.
863-773-3082.
Okay, that's
And
good.
right now, I don't know if you can see the plane behind us, but it's down getting an engine overhaul, so it's not going to be flying for probably another month.
What happened with that plane? I don't see the engine.
The
right?
engine's gone. So it had
It's out.
it had what's called a prop strike, and that means when the propeller's spinning, maybe you're taxiing, maybe you're landing, whatever, you hit something, and they have what once you hit something with the propeller spinning, it can do internal damage to the engine. Of course, it damages the prop as well. Well, this one we were having RPM issues, and we couldn't figure out what in the world was causing it, and we took the prop in to get it overhauled because we'd exhausted everything else, and then as they took it in, this was the second time we'd done it, and the guy was like, he's like, look, this plane's had a prop strike. They could tell by looking at the prop, and then so when you have that, you have to by regulations, and of course for safety, you have to tear the engine down, inspect all the internal steel and all that, and that's exactly what they did with this one. And they found a crack in the crankshaft. It can be a very minute crack, but then that kind of stuff is the stuff that you have to replace and rebuild the engine, and then you're operating safely again. So
Okay, good. So we're gonna finish now. I'm gonna go over with you and see the inside of the airplane. So thank you very much, Mike, for this interview, and I hope that the 4-H'er will like this, and maybe we will have some pilots in the future here in Hardy County.
Yeah, bring them. We'll show them around.
Good. Thank you. Gracias. Bye.